Welcome back everyone, and it's time to go ballsy! Today I will be covering with my man Kevin on why and how Yami recruited every member of the Black Bulls.
Ooh, I'm so excited to be part of this!
Alright, calm down buddy.
We're gonna talk about why Asta got recruited because he could take over after Yami's death! Also, why does it sound like you recorded from Yami's toilet?
Okay, that is blasphemy in my presence, Kevin! I told everyone this! Do not ever mention that again!
No, Arnold, don't do this!
I was just
You're fired!
Now we all know that the fandom sims for Yami, including the women. It's not only Charlotte, everyone. Remember when I covered their ship in complete detail? And I asked women from our Discord why they like Yami? The results speak for themselves.
Alright everyone, so we know we have to respect women. So I'm gonna ask you guys, I have one question. What do you guys think about Yami?
So due to high requests from our subscribers, you wanted us to explain how this hunk of a man recruited every member of the Black Bulls. I mean, at the end of the day, we all know they are the strongest and most powerful out of everyone due to their unique powers and backgrounds. But the plot comes along and says, no, it doesn't make the other characters believe that.
Unacceptable!
If you had the notification bell on for the channel, you would know that we explained in our earlier videos that a common theme between all the Black Bull members is their situational disadvantage, pertaining to the fact that humans aren't born equal. They go through their own tests, trials, and tribulations. Black Clover as a whole does a fine job in representing emotional complexity which we, the audience, also face in our day-to-day. For example, Asta being looked down upon for being a peasant. I mean, let's be honest, my Asian fans will be able to understand this the most. You're telling me none of you have experienced something similar from your parents?
You have parents? Lucky.
My whole family wanted me to be a doctor. Tu doctor ban, study kar putar. I would have been a disgrace if I didn't. I mean, look at the results of not wanting to do that. Yeah, my life was tough, man, but I did that just for you. I sacrificed myself for your entertainment, so I deserve the like button being smashed right now. Anyways, Black Clover, like most series, goes to a certain extreme to make these complexities we all have easily understandable. The clearest way in doing so is showing us characters from different backgrounds growing up accordingly. Like, you must have noticed most of the Golden Dawn members, excluding Yuno, are from a noble background, and they all have similar traits. They tend to be quite civil, conservative, and very talented. Now, the other squads also have specific attributes where their members usually share them. When it comes to the Black Bulls, however, unlike the Golden Dawn, they tend to be very outspoken, wild, and out of place. They are all a different shade of color, as Yami puts it. It would seem that the Black Bulls is a home for lost souls with a broken past. Their whole reputation is known within the Clover Kingdom as being losers and not that great. In manga chapter 105, it was announced that after a year of Asta joining, the Black Bulls somehow reached second place. This was in the amount of stars that they have, with a total of 101. Not only were the members of the Black Bulls themselves shocked, like, oh my god, what did we achieve? But even the public people are thinking, how is it possible? Describing the Black Bulls as that wild, rowdy gang of hooligans, stating that it must be some type of mistake that these losers can be second out of the best Magic Knight groups. It was only after Asta joining and him affecting everyone that changed the Black Bulls to being one of the best, because last year results stated that they have negative 50 stars. This is why Asta is the GOAT, everyone, and it's another reason for why he deserves to be Wizard King in the future.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
He motivated the entire squad and emulates Yami as a captain. Check out my video discussing this very fact after binge watching this video. I'll put it in the pinned comment for you. Now let's look at each member individually and try to break down why they were destined to belong to the Black Bulls by briefly going over their past and how they joined. Let's start with the man we all simp for. Yami was born in the land of the rising sun, which is Japan in the Black Clover universe. We made a video talking about the insane potential regarding this country and how it will make Asta and Yami more OP in the future not too long ago. Yami was raised within a fisherman family, but one day as a young man, whilst Yami was fishing, he ended up being shipwrecked ashore in the Clover Kingdom. Now being a foreigner, Yami faces many troubles, which was due to the culture shock and racial difference of his upbringing. Many immigrants usually face these issues in real life, especially with the race and class diversity in the Clover Kingdom that we see. So Yami wasn't an exception. After suffering from the treatment he received by society, he decided to participate in the Grimoire acceptance ceremony, where he received his grimoire and released dark magic. This actually made it more difficult on him, as it made others hate and fear him. He was suffering from success. However, with the exception of Julius Novachrono, the mother-flipping goat wizard king, who at the time was the captain of the Grey Deers, Julius, due to his fascination with magic, invites Yami to join the Magic Knights. So he takes him on to his squad. Yami joined the squad with Morgan, another friend he made through his relationship with Nacht. Yami got along with Nacht in his teen years due to their similar outlook on society and how one should not succumb to the pressure of standards set by others and their expectations. Yami enjoyed this company, training with them and going to battles. During these times, Julius adopted the mentor sensei role for Yami, even teaching him the native language and writing of the Clover Kingdom. After some time, Yami's accolades were recognized by everyone. Julius also became the Wizard King and had the power to make decisions. Julius wanted to make a society that could change the world for the better, where classism would not matter, racism would end, and the future generations will prosper through tranquility and peace, and not being judged based upon the background and where they grew. Now, due to Julius Novachrono being the one who convinced Yami to join the Magic Knights, and is the first person to show him any kindness since he came to the Clover Kingdom, they both trust each other very much and share a strong friendship. Julius is the only person shown thus far who can get Yami to do something without receiving a single complaint in return. Yami made a bet with William on who would end up as a squad captain first, but it ends up in a draw. Julius in episode 86 tells William and Yami that they are being promoted into captains of their own squads. Julius wanted to create more Magic Knights to protect the country and chose people that could understand his dream. Yami tells Julius that he will create the Black Bull squad to be a place where status, bloodlines, and social standing don't matter. He goes on to explain that he will round up outsiders and hooligans so that he can create a place where they can belong, something that he himself needed when he was discriminated against once being transported to the Clover Kingdom. Now, since Yami is the captain, he has the duty to delegate missions, relay messages received from the Wizard King, and distribute the members' salaries. Additionally, the captain decides whether a mage is to be accepted into the ranks of the squad. The decision can be made after the captain has seen the potential ability during an exam, or if you're a Chad like Yami, just because you feel like recruiting someone, you can, because fuck the rules.
Screw the rules, I have money.
Alrighty, thank you, Adel-sama. Next up, we've got the mystery man himself, Nacht Faust, the vice captain of the Black Bulls that remain generally unknown for 90% of the entire series, until he just suddenly showed up. There are some members who don't exactly have explanations on how they joined the squad, but Nacht is, well, he's definitely not one of those guys. He has quite the story when it comes to joining the Bulls, but it's not one for the faint of heart, and it's definitely not in line with some of the cheery pasts of the other Bulls that all had some kind of happy ending when Yami showed up. Nacht was always a strange person, and he never felt like he fit in with anyone around him, especially his whole family, who seemed to favor his twin brother, Morgan, in all things, just like everyone else they knew. Everyone looked at Morgan as a fine example of how a person, in a magic night, should be, while they looked at Nacht as the kind of person they'd want their kids and themselves to stay the frig away from. He was like one of those emo kids in class that you'd probably talk about behind their back, but if they ever came up to you, you shut your mouth real quick. You all know the type. Anyway, after receiving his grimoire, he had heard many rumors of someone else just like him. Someone people were creeped out by. A foreigner with dark magic. Very much like his shadow magic. And so he knew he had to see him for himself. This man, of course, was Yami. Their meeting was inevitable, and with that, a friendship was born. They had a lot in common, despite coming from different backgrounds, so it was perfect. Until one day, Yami took the Magic Knight's entrance exam and got picked as a member of the Grey Deer, which just so happened to be the same squad Nacht's twin brother was a part of. The two of them also seemed to get along fine, even though they didn't appear to be the likely duo that he and Nacht did. And soon, Yami was accustomed to being a Magic Knight and living the life of one who protects the kingdom and its citizens. However, when Nacht turned 18, his parents summoned him with some very, interesting news, to say the least. They said they wanted him to be the head of the household, as that's how it works with royal families, and Nacht fully expected that, which was why he was like... Now, he said that they should just let Morgan take over, you know. The family would be in better hands if he had the role, and my man was about to be on his merry way when they said... They then brought him to a place he had never been before, and explained to him the truth behind his family and what they really were all about. They told him the dark secrets that they had been keeping from him for so long, that the magic they practice isn't at all the kind he thought, and that they may have many contracts with devils. This is why they want him to be head of the family. They've always known that this is something he'd be more suited for, and that Morgan was never meant for that kind of life. Which gave Nacht the most intense feeling of relief, because he finally understood that he was the one who fit in, and Morgan was the real black sheep. And so, Nacht began studying devil magic, and became immersed in his family's dark specialty, excelling in his work very quickly, and discovering he was a born natural at it. His parents gave him the utmost praise and quickly had great confidence in their son and his future leading the house. Now, one day, his father told him that he was progressing so incredibly well that he trusted him to try out a bigger challenge. A challenge he should have turned the frick away from. He told Nacht that he could attempt to form a contract with a supreme devil, and that he believed he could pull it off. However, Morgan wasn't having any of it and revealed himself from inside a family robe. He claimed that practicing forbidden magic was a crime and that he could not overlook it. But more than anything, it was too dangerous to continue any longer. Nacht paid no heed to his words though, and said that the danger is what made it fun. That life should always be that exhilarating. Then, he said, the thing. You know what I'm talking about, right? The thing. The thing that all Black Clovers say to hype themselves up. Say it with me now. Right here. Right now. I'll surpass my limits. Oh god, that was terrible. But this time, it's not a good thing, bruh. It's not the kind of limits he should be surpassing, if you know what I mean. Oh god. So, Nacht said the thing, and then... the worst thing happened. You all unsubscribed from the channel. No! Nah, okay guys, back to the peak fiction, okay? Suddenly, a supreme devil appeared before Nacht, which, I mean, you know, that was expected, but somehow it wasn't the rush that Nacht was hoping it would be. Without a moment's hesitation, the supreme devil went right on ahead and killed everyone present but Nacht, including his parents and brother. His brother managed to break the relic that the devil had a connection to, but in the end, it didn't undo anything that was done to those he loved. Soon after, at the gravesite, Yami visited Nacht and his fallen family, and said that he was going to create his own squad. He said that when he does, he wants Nacht to be the vice captain, so that they can both be laughed at together. From then on, Nacht operated as a black bull, and the rest is history. And now, guys, we finally have Asta, the Chad of all Chads! Besides Yami himself, that is. The future future Wizard King we all know and love. And we actually should be more familiar with how he joined the Bulls than any other member. But because it happened so long ago in the story, let me run you through it again real quick. So, obviously, we know the story of how Asta wanted to be the Wizard King, but had no magic, and thought it would change when he got a grimoire, until he didn't get one, and then he yelled, a lot. Then he went to save his best friend, and then he got killed.
That's all, folks.
Got him!
Until he didn't, because the animators fooled us, and then he got the grimoire, and got an outrageously oversized sword that only he could lift, and then he waved that thing around and beat up a scumbag. 6 month time skip! He took the Magic Knights entrance, he took the Magic Knights entrance exam, and flopped every single test except for the one he spent 6 months training for, so when it came time for the captains to vote, he got no offers.
I'm kind of retarded.
Just kidding. He almost got no offers, but then Tabata stepped in and was like,
we don't do that here.
So Yami, the chattiest of all the chads, stood up and was like, I could kill you right now. And Asta was like, no you can't, I'm the main character and this is a shonen. And he was like, you're right, now come join my squad, we've been needing a main character. And that is how he joined.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
No. Obviously, there's more to it than that. He also had to go through a baptism. Yup, that's right. My boy is a man of God.
Bruh.
Magna basically committed attempted murder and he tried to write our boy off the show. But once again, Tabata was just like, nope, that ain't gonna fly. And helped him figure it out by making our man a baseball player.
3, 2, 1, go!
Anyway, in the end, Asta earned his robe and became an honorary Straw Hat. I mean Black Bull. Now, Asta being a Black Bull is a big deal for the squad, as he himself is an inspiration to those around him, no matter what the situation is, really. If they're fighting a buff tiger-looking ancient demon dude with 3 eyes, he's there to ignite the fire of teamwork in others. If they're fighting the giant family of said buff tiger dude, he's there to symbolize hope. And if they're sitting at the beach watching one of their own team members train, he's there to encourage them. Now, this is impressive because of the fact that no one tried to do that for him growing up. No one showed up and was like, you can do this. Not even the church-going, God-loving people that raised him. And yet he gives everyone else that support that he never had himself. And it's this spark inside of him that earned him the spot of #1 Black Bull at the Star Festival, and his inspiration and encouragement that elevated the Black Bulls to the #2 squad. That's right, Black Bulls! Yami even likely sees himself in Asta, aside from the rowdy and loud demeanor, and that could be why he allowed him to join the squad. You know, with him being a perfect fit for them and all. It's also definitely got something to do with the fact that he 100% believes Asta can be the Wizard King. He told him this the day he met him, and has never wavered from this belief, having complete faith in his mini-chad. His belief is only strengthened further when he and Asta end up having to fight together against the most dangerous threat they've ever faced. Everyone else was either down for the count or useless, so they had to rely on each other and be in perfect sync, and if they didn't trust each other, then it never would have worked. If Yami didn't believe Asta would survive the fight and be victorious in the end, then he wouldn't have dragged him into it, and he wouldn't have the same level of trust in him. See, it's the same trust that everyone in the squad has learned to have with him. Even Nacht, who only recently just met the dude.
Alright, so the next member is Finral, one of my favorite Black Bull members. We can all admit that Finral is a character we can all relate to, right? I mean, who doesn't have parents that compare you to your siblings or cousins? Like, come on, let's be honest. Finral was born to House Vaude, revealed in chapter 70. House Vaude is a noble family, meaning Finral grew up with high expectations. However, Finral's father ends up having a second son with another woman, revealed in manga chapter 127. Finral and his brother have a rocky relationship because as the two boys grew up, they were very competitive. Finral's magic and talents were always overshadowed by his younger brother Langris. Finral admitted himself in chapter 127 that I was never able to act like a real big brother to you. His younger brother responds by saying, you threw it all away and left. You're a coward who can't even hurt people. This basically sums everything up. There is essentially a family feud and Finral doesn't see his value in the hierarchy. His whole family since childhood always saw him as a lesser human being that couldn't match up to the family name and his younger brother. Since, you know, amongst nobles, power, magic and status is everything. But not all is bad for Finral. After all, Vanessa acknowledges his brother's superiority over him and says that he is much more kind, which makes him a better magic knight back in chapter 126. This statement and childhood basically made Finral join the Black Bull squad. Yami needed someone that could take him from one place to another whenever he wanted to. Yami most likely saw the despair also within Finral regarding his family's nobility, but also saw the courage to prove everyone wrong with the immense potential that he has. Now you're probably wondering why Finral loves transporting Yami around and join the Black Bulls. Well, it's because every time he does, he feels proud because he isn't a useless bum like his family and everyone said all his life. He is useful and he takes pride in that for his love for Yami. With the respect he has for Yami, he sees the reward and he is the pivotal point for the Black Bulls as he serves a purpose for them all, transporting them around to help the people around the kingdom for the greater good. The Black Bulls and Yami gave him a purpose which to him in his shitty life of comparison and uselessness was a huge thing he needed. Nobody in his life ever asked him to do anything because they would just go to a superior person called Langris as he could just do it better. But Yami saw a difference. He saw the black sheep who everyone neglected and made him feel special, because just as his future wife said, Finral is a nice person in the inside and doesn't act like those noble and royal pricks that we all hate, and they're bitches. Yeah, there you go. Now let's move on to Secre. She was born into a noble family. However, due to possessing seemingly useless magic according to them and their prejudice, Secre is then assigned as a royal servant to the first wizard king, Prince Lemuel, and together they work to create various magic tools. One day she follows Lemuel and his sister Tetia when they sneak out of the castle to visit the elf tribe. On Tetia and Lich's wedding day, Secre hears Lemuel call for help and finds him bound by magic. She reports that the magic siphon was stolen and unseals the prince. They fly to the wedding venue but are too late. The magic tool was used to kill the elves and Tetia, and Lich's grimoire had become corrupted into the five-leaf grimoire. To prevent Zagred from taking his body, Lich uses the magic stones to transform himself into a giant demon. Whilst Lemuel fights the monster, Secre notices that Tetia and one of the twins are still alive, so she seals their injuries and saves their lives. However, she has to leave and help Lemuel and takes with her the magic siphon device and the magic stones. Lemuel uses the siphon to absorb the monster's magic, and although the tool breaks, it weakens Lich enough for Lemuel, the first wizard king, to kill him. Secre then uses the magic stones to seal Zagred, and the magic causes two horns to grow from her head. Before her spell finishes, however, Zagred calls the stones over and uses them to cast reincarnation magic on the elves, planning to return with them. Since the first wizard king is fatally injured during the fight, Secre uses the stones once again and seals the prince in a statue atop the demon skeleton on the outskirts of Harj village. Due to the overuse of forbidden magic, she is transformed into an anti-magic bird. 5 centuries later, she decides to stay alongside Asta after encountering him at the beginning of the Magic Knight's entrance exam, as she notices that Asta had the original 5-leaf grimoire that belonged to Lich. Nero guides Asta on his journey and eventually gathers all the elf stones for the objective of bringing the first wizard king back to life to destroy the devil named Zagred that tormented them in the past. Their mission succeeds, of course, we all know the story, and after the remaining elf spirits are taken back to heaven, Secre stands with the first wizard king on a broken tower and look out over to the kingdom. When Asta asks if she is Nero, she confirms and explains that she was originally human and could not speak as a bird until the Shadow Palace was summoned. Suddenly, the first wizard king's body starts cracking apart and Secre wishes to go with him because she believes that the time that they're living in, she doesn't belong in. It's 500 years in the future. However, the first wizard king gives one last request to Secre that she should live on, because the first wizard king witnessed their combined efforts against Zagred and believes that the new generation of magic knights are making a huge difference, and he is happy that his ancestors are actually great. A few days later, Secre and Asta are called to testify before the magic parliament. When they arrive, they are immediately handcuffed and brought before parliament to stand trial. Damnatio accuses the pair of controlling the magic knights to attack the kingdom, and Secre's horns are cited as proof of her involvement with forbidden magic. Asta protests, but as Secre listens to the nobles' comments, she realizes that the prejudice are clouding their judgment just as they did 500 years in the past. Suddenly, Eventually, the other Black Bulls barge into the courthouse to rescue Asta and Secre, something that Secre didn't have before. Secre is shocked to hear Yami refer to her as a squad member. She initially protests and asks them to take Asta and leave her, but they invite her to join anyway. Yami says that she will fit in with their weird mix and puts a squad robe on her.
Alright boys, after that, we have Noelle, aka the best female in all of New Gen Shonen. AKA the best female in all of Black Clover. AKA Asta's future wife.
True, and yeah, that's pretty true. That's true, and yeah, that's true. That's true.
Now, with Noelle, if you really don't know how she came to join the Bulls, then I hate to say it, but you've been certifiably living under a rock and have been reading and watching with your freaking eyes taped shut. That being said, we don't judge people for the way they live, and I mean, you're here watching us, one of the most goated anime channels on YouTube, so you're probably a pretty awesome person yourself, which is why I will take the time to explain it to you anyway. So, for starters, we actually have to go way back for this one, as we just recently got new info on Noelle's past, and that past ties into why she was put into the squad, so it matters. So, 17 years ago, Vanessa Zagratis attacked Noelle Silva and cursed her and her son Noelle, Noelle's oldest brother. Noelle was forced to die, and Noelle was forced to keep his mouth shut about it. Because he couldn't say anything, he felt the need to pretend to blame Noelle for their mother's death, just so he wouldn't have to come up with an excuse not to say anything. Also, because he couldn't say anything to anyone, he couldn't tell his other siblings either, so they actually believed him when he said it was her fault and took that as an invitation to go make her life a living hell, verbally and emotionally abusing her every chance they got. That is not freaking okay, guys. I hate these dudes. Noelle also used the fact that she wasn't good at controlling her magic to keep her safe and off the battlefield, which is why she was cold to everyone and acted as though she believed she was superior to them all. But that same day, after she almost died trying to train her magic control, they ended up seeing her for the flawed person she was and accepting her anyway, because the entire squad is exactly that, flawed. From that day on, she would continue to grow in maturity as she was faced with struggle after struggle, enemy after enemy, forced to fight alongside others. She became kinder, more understanding, far less discriminating, and I would even dare say respectable, putting others before herself and even her own siblings. She's now overcome her struggles in magic control, truly understanding what it means to enjoy her magic and embrace it, making her one of the most inspiring members to the audience, including myself. I love you, Noelle-chan!
Moving on to Charmy, as one of the higher ranking members of the Black Bulls, and one of the oldest as well, being a whole 4 years older than Asta and Noelle. Her general role in the team is to cook for the squad, and she has absolutely no problem with that. In fact, it's no exaggeration to say that food is her life. Charmy is always, and I mean always, eating no matter what she's doing or where she even is. She never wastes an opportunity to stuff her face with delicious food, as she says. Many believe that all she cares about is food, but that's not the case. She does care about her squad mates. For instance, when Langris was about to kill Finral and the other Black Bulls came to his rescue, she was included in that by Tabata. As we see, she was ready to throw down just like the other members. Tabata confirmed in an interview in 2019 that Charmy is a backdoor member of the Black Bulls, meaning that she didn't join through a magic entrance exam like Asta. A backdoor member is someone that joined through other means, such as Noelle being a royal and powerful but not being able to control her magic, meaning that Noelle rejected her to join his squad initially due to their backstory, but Noelle was bound to be accepted somewhere due to her status, right? So she ends up at the Black Bulls. It's pretty obvious how Charmy fits the theme of the Black Bulls. Firstly, look at the size of her.
That's adorable.
Secondly, she loves food and cooks it.
What else?
Thirdly, she's half dwarf.
What the fuck?
Yami, when recruiting Charmy, must have needed a cook in the Black Bulls so that they all don't go hungry. None of them like to cook. Look at them. You think Vanessa likes cooking in the kitchen? You think Magna knows how to cook? My man's a thug. You think Luck knows how to cook? My man knows only how to cook his opponents. Secondly, he would have recognized Charmy's relentless, powerful nature through the sheep, much like how the invaders of the Clover Kingdom did when they first detected it and got demolished in one hit within the early arcs of Black Clover. Thirdly, Charmy fits the theme of the Black Bulls being outcasts, since she is half dwarf and can bring about the aspect of the story where their race have been outcasted through the lands due to the past history. Charmy doesn't even know she is half dwarf and has forgotten all her memories regarding her heritage. This made her a lost soul, and Yami knew she needed a place called home because this was one of his original objectives when founding the squad, that he will give lost souls a place to confide in. Charmy's second form makes her become a tall and more mature looking woman with an unyielding hunger. What's more, she also has a giant wolf that lies dormant inside the sheep and cotton, something that Yami would have detected in the past whilst recruiting her. And as we all know, since Yami has experienced racism himself or prejudice, like look at Charmy, she's a little dwarf, she's small, he would have taken sympathy upon her being treated differently and end up recruiting her.
Next up is the witch that can't hold her liquor, Vanessa and Oteka. Now, Vanessa, kinda like most of the others, had a sad past and more specifically, a bad childhood. As a child, she was held prisoner by the Witch Queen and was kept in an oversized bird cage. She didn't think she would ever be allowed to leave until one day, something unheard of happened. A man was in the forest of witches! That man, of course, just like all these other backstories, was Yami. And of course, he sorta kinda indirectly invited her to join his squad. Now, that may sound very quick and anticlimactic. No one died, no one got cursed, no one got defeated or anything. Yami was just where he was supposed to be by not being where he was supposed to be. But, you know, that's okay, because Vanessa's story doesn't end there. Gosh, guys, have some patience. Years and years later, after Asta was branded with a curse by Veto, she got the idea to go to the Witch Queen and ask for her to heal Asta's arms so that he could continue to fight on and swing his sword. This didn't exactly go as planned though, and the other members of the squad ended up following her and crashing the party. Noelle convinced the Witch Queen to heal Asta and let he and the rest of them protect her forest, and so they went ahead and fought against the big bad Diamond Kingdom invaders. While fighting one of the generals, Asta was nearly defeated when the Witch Queen used her blood magic to remove the limiters on his anti-magic, awakening a new Asta that the bulls and readers alike had never seen before. This new form allowed him to defeat the general, but once the threat was gone, the Witch Queen decided to take advantage of her new weapon and began manipulating Asta's blood. She tried to make him kill his teammates, but his sheer willpower due to being a shonen protagonist was enough to stop himself from doing the unforgivable. However, eventually, Vanessa couldn't take it anymore and was backed into an emotional corner, which in turn made her awaken a brand new spell, the very spell that caused the Witch Queen to trap her in the first place. This spell stops Asta from killing his friends and undoes the Queen's control. And now, the one that you've all been waiting for, the most savage character, the one that everyone loves, Gauche. Yay! Yay, Gauche! Gauche is so cool. That sound real enough? It was as real as he deserved. So, Gauche is a pretty divisive character in the community. Some love him, some hate him, but most think he's just creepy. But I don't think he's bad. I don't like him, but he's okay by me, and that's because I can comprehend what I'm reading. No offense. So essentially, Gauche and his little sister Marie were born into a noble family, the Adlies. But shortly after Marie was born, their parents had died in a accident. From there, after another noble stepped in and kicked the children out, inheriting their family's money, Gauche and his sister became homeless. And with no money or a means of survival, Gauche had to steal food and money from those who had more than him, and sometimes even kill, just so that they could survive. Now, somewhere in there, they came across a young woman who was about to be robbed. Gauche saved her life, at Marie's request of course. Gauche gave the woman some life advice that prepared her for the future, saying, if you're gonna run away from home, be prepared to do everything yourself. Which is extremely true and a great example of him using his life experience to better the lives of others. This young woman, as we all know, turned out to be Grey disguised in her transformation magic, which probably isn't even transformation magic after what Owen told her. One day, probably not long after that, he attacked a noble's house but was caught in the act and sent to the slammer. After breaking out, he met the man, the myth, the legend himself, Yami Senpai! lie! After being defeated by Yami, because we all knew that would happen, Gauche was invited to join his squad. Now, he fights for Marie's safety and to make sure she's happy, and stays in the squad mostly to avoid being imprisoned again. Since his joining, he has received some great development, and he's also trudged through more trials than we all foresaw, having survived a massively oversized stab wound thanks to the likes of Ray, of course, and has also learned to fight for others and allow others to help him, kinda like luck. To be honest, I can't wait to see what else Tabata has in store for Gauche. Who knows, I might even grow to like him. Also, I'm not gonna lie, I hate it when people call Gauche creepy. Not the people who just started reading or watching, they're justified, but those who have read it and still call this dude a creeper. Gauche is not obsessed with his sister, not in a creepy way anyway.
Are you sure about that?
And his nosebleeds are because he cares about her, and he'll nosebleed for anyone else he cares about as well, as we see Gordon explain while they're searching for a cure for Asta's curse. Now, why his body reacts that way when he thinks about how much he cares about those people, the world may never know. It's weird, it's bizarre, but it's anime, so who gives a turd?
Alright, my audio has been fixed. I finished my banging shit in Yami's toilet. So now you can enjoy my beautiful voice better with high quality. Next up, we are talking about Zora Ideale, the drip lord of the Black Bulls. Zora was raised by his father Zora Ideale, who Zora looked up to and respected. This is because his father was the first ever commoner magic knight to ever be accepted in the Clover Kingdom's entire history. When Zora was 12 years old, Zara gave him a doll to encourage him to talk more and break through his barriers. Unfortunately, you guys can probably guess what happens. Sometime later, Zara dies on a mission with the Purple Orca. Now that wouldn't be such a big deal considering it's an honor to die whilst on a mission, but whilst visiting the grave, Zora overhears his father's squad mates admit to killing Zara because he was a peasant associating with nobles, that his status didn't deserve to be amongst their ranks, and that the status quo should stay the same. Julius Novachrono heavily loved Zara and also visited the grave. He was heavily affected because Zora's father Zara was a literal living symbol that was making a change within society that Julius dreams of. The society that doesn't rely upon classism, that doesn't be racist to others, and cause vicious acts out of prejudice and for no reason. Julius wants to create a new generation of knights that would change the entire system from the inside out. So once Zora learns of this truth, he breaks down into tears, and later he begins his own personal mission of searching for and taking out corrupt magic knights. Zora is an outcast and is constantly reminded of that by others in his childhood. He became a person that was outspoken and is extremely blunt at telling the truth to others, calling out hypocrites and destroying evil with the justice he sees fit. In his introduction, he pretty much killed two dudes that were harassing a woman, and later we find out that Julius is very supportive of him in chapter 133, where he states he enjoys his blunt perspective of pointing out the flaws of the magic knights, which is something the Wizard King would want to know since he needs to make it better. In chapter 133, during his wandering journey, Zora encounters Yami. Both being from a position of low rank in society, they are able to understand each other quite quickly, and Yami then offers him a place in the Black Bull squad. Although Zora takes and keeps the robe, he does not wear it and continues on his mission. This is when we move on to the royal exam. Zora questions Asta's motivation, and then Asta suggests that they work together, to Zora's annoyance. Asta insists that Zora come up with a new plan, but he refuses and points out that Asta could win on his own with his ability, but Asta happily reveals that he needs the rest before using it again. Zora questions why Asta is so happy about that, and he responds that he wants to fight alongside everyone, which reminds Zora of his father. Asta points out Zora and reminds him that Kirsch is a royal and powerful. Zora squeezes his finger and tells him that he will not fight for a friendly match with royalty but for his own goals, and that he has no choice but to fight with Asta as they eventually win. Asta proved to him what it means to be a magic knight and how people should work together to achieve their goals. Being a lone wanderer that takes on the burdens of society is too much, and in a team battle, you need the help of one another to smash the goals properly. Rather than being limited to a smaller picture, you should see the better world that could be achieved by having a family you can rely upon. He then decides to stick around and enjoy the fun that comes with being a Black Bull member.
Alrighty, up next, we have the smiley, lightning-charged fighting addict, and while we don't exactly know how the man joined the squad, we do have the, how do I say, before and after the boy became a bull. So, starting with the before, I guess, I suppose we should start with Luck's childhood, which isn't exactly all sunshines and rainbows, obviously. Suppose we should start with Luck's childhood, which isn't exactly all sunshines and rainbows, obviously. No, Luck was born a peasant under the care of a psychologically ill and abusive mother, one that would beat him on a regular basis for, well, no good reason, really. I suppose part of it had to do with his near sociopathic personality that stops him from being able to express any kind of emotion aside from joy. I mean, yeah, I guess that would confuse me and kind of freak me out, but that's still no reason to harm your smiley little baby, gosh darn it. Anyway, Luck beat up a noble at school one day, and as a result, his mother showed him love, which gave him the idea that her love had to be earned, and that he could only have it if he kept on winning, so Luck just kept on doing that. Pretty much never lost again. Eventually, his mother died from stress. Oh yeah, you heard me right. She grew too many gray hairs and kicked the bucket. Ever since then, the mantra he's lived by that's always carried him from day to day was win. So Luck continued down the path of trying to keep on winning to earn his mother's acceptance, and one day entered the Magic Knight's entrance ceremony in the hopes to be picked up by a squad. In his efforts, he almost killed his opponent, which resulted in all Magic Knight captains to pass on recruiting, except for Yami, who gave him a chance. Now, from there, we can get into the after. We have a small idea of what it was like when he first joined, thanks to Magna's flashback of how they met and became friends. At first, Luck was nothing but a cheery troublemaker, and loved making fun of Magna, so much so that he darn near tried to kill him on a daily basis. Eventually, they did begin to bond in a strange way, and as we now know, they consider themselves best friends. Since then, Luck has begun to move past his, well, past, and has begun trusting his fellow squad mates to help in battle, willingly working together with others, something that was once completely foreign to him.
Next up is Magna, and in a lot of ways, his story is pretty similar to Asta. He even downright admits Asta is the protagonist, and he is more like a side character in chapter 291, whilst fighting against Dante. Magna was raised in Ryaka village, a place not too far from Hodge, somewhere near the border of the Clover Kingdom, which means that everyone there is of no real status or nobility, and that means everyone understands the struggle of peasants. Now, Magna has even admitted he has never actually had a real friend before, not out loud, but more so in his head. This was the case for him for a long time, until one fateful day he met Luck, someone he never expected to like, let alone become best friends with. But that's what ended up happening, as we see in the underwater temple arc during their fight with Veto. As time went on, he came to see the Black Bulls as his family, and this tells us that originally he had no family outside of the old man Sehi, and that his past was pretty dark and depressing like everyone else. Because of this, and the fact that he was made fun out of for his hair, he ended up becoming a thug, and originally tried to terrorize South Sea village. So this all makes sense psychologically, since his insecurities about his appearance would cause him to act tougher than he actually was. It is explained at 15, Magna joined the Black Bull squad, which surprised all the fellow villagers. If you can remember in manga chapter 8, when Magna thought he was going to die, he had a flashback of people from his village congratulating him. They even go on to say that, yeah, we can't just call you a thug anymore, you're our pride and joy. In the same chapter, Magna even goes on to imply the idea that he and Asta have similar backgrounds since they are from familiar villages. Well, now, later on in the manga, he is proving his worth in chapter 292 by defying Dante's claim that his magic is paltry and not even worth acknowledging in the slightest. Now, in Black Clover chapter 293, Magna begins to think back to his past, how he wasn't born a noble or a royal, and how he didn't receive any strength boost through the elf reincarnation, and that he doesn't have anti-magic or a big black sword like my boy Asta. So Magna remembers a moment that he had with Yami during the 6-month training period, where he asked him why he invited him into the squad. Yami responded by saying, I don't know, maybe it's because we had the same hobby. And Magna's old side, he's depressed like, oh my god, I see, that's all I am, a good gambling buddy, I got it. But then Yami continued on and say, you also seem like you had the most grit, and this lit up Magna's heart, firing him up to train and become stronger. Remember, Yami was also like Magna in his childhood when it came to causing a ruckus, until Nacht's brother Morgan came to give him direction.
Now, up next is Marilyn Manson, I mean Gordon Agrippa. And as we would expect, just like every other member, Gordon was looked at by all those around him as a creep.
It really pisses me off, and I'm tired of it, and I'm not doing this anymore. I'm tired of being the nice guy.
Because of his upbringing and family reputation, all things that are out of his control. His family was known for their heavy involvement in curses and magic relating to them. Because of this lack of a social life, Gordon didn't know how to talk to anyone, which is why he used to whisper and mumble whenever he wanted to say anything. However, Gordon's creepiness wasn't enough to scare away Yami. The Chad swordsman himself thought Gordon was funny and entertaining for the same reasons everyone else thought he was scary. As a result, Gordon was recruited into the squad. Now, you all might be thinking, that's it? That's all there is to say about this dude? No. Over time, Gordon has been given great development and has become a much more likable character. One that I would dare say we can all connect with. For instance, we learned in chapter 139 that Gordon left his family, not just because he was going to be a magic knight, but because he didn't agree with his household or the way they lived. We see this more in depth in chapter 223, where Gordon goes to visit his family and ask about forbidden magic curses and devils, you know, so that he can help Asta with his whole execution problem.
First time.
Don't hurt me.
It is here that we truly get to see Gordon show his disgust and negativity towards the ways of his family, admitting that he had his speculations that his father was doing wicked research and that he believed he had no real respect or understanding of what life really was. Now, of course, he was wrong about his beliefs towards his father and family as they had changed, but this is something I'm sure some of us can relate to. I'm sure some of us growing up couldn't be the people we wanted to be because our families held us back and made it hard for us. In situations like Gordon's, I'm sure it's easy to resent your family and want to get away from them and live your life the way you wanted. Kinda like Otto being an anime YouTuber, even though his papa wanted him to become a doctor. In a way, Gordon is kinda like the embodiment of what it means to be a Black Bull. More than anyone else in the squad, he's been rejected and shunned by many people. And those who didn't shun or reject him, he shunned and rejected, meaning there was pretty much no one in life who he felt he could love or trust. Until the Black Bulls, of course. He was raised to be dangerous and use deadly magic, but Gordon is a peaceful person who just wants friends. And that's all he's ever shown us throughout the majority of Black Clover. The first time we see him fight is in chapter 139, and this is the chapter where he truly spreads his wings and learns he has a voice. Honestly, and you know, we've said this many times in past reviews, but I can't wait to see Gordon again in the manga and see what Tabata's been cooking up with his character, because ever since the beginning, I knew there was more to be done with this dude. So up next we have Gray, the shyest member of the squad. And when I say the shyest, I mean by a long shot. Like, this chick was so shy, she went years without revealing her true appearance. So literally no one in the squad, not even Yami himself, knew what she looked like. Or that she was even a she.
Wait till you see the... No.
Oh, fuck, I can't believe you've done this.
Look at the top of his head.
That's right, we all thought she was a dude too. Tabata kept that secret way too well. Now, to the best of our knowledge, we don't actually know how she joined the squad, but we have to assume it was probably in the Magic Knight's entrance exam. Because although there have been others who have joined other ways, those have all been shown. So anyone else we can safely assume all joined the same way Asta did, more or less. However, we do know her backstory, so I'll happily go ahead and explain that now. Gray grew up in a living situation quite a lot like that of the movie Cinderella, where she was the black sheep of the house and did all the chores and cleaning, while her other two sisters were actually loved by their mother and treated with respect. One day, Gray's sisters asked her to show them her magic, as they noticed she'd been practicing. So she demonstrated what she could do, and they were such little words that I'm not gonna say that they couldn't stand the idea of their faces being on her body, because in their minds, she was the scum of the earth. Crazy, right? When she told them she couldn't transform back because she wasn't used to using her magic yet, they chased her out of the house, and Gray ran out into the forest. No idea where she was going. She decided that she couldn't return home since, you know, she didn't know what they were gonna do to her if she did, but she also wasn't sure she could survive in the world by herself. Suddenly, a group of thugs showed up and made it clear they didn't have any intention of letting her go unscathed or with all her belongings. When all seemed hopeless and she didn't know what to do, it seemed as though a guardian angel was watching over her. Out of nowhere, the thugs were bombarded with magic rays and taken out immediately. The person responsible was none other than Gauche, who had taken out the robbers at Marie's command. He then gave her some advice that would end up shaping her future and would allow her to thrive in life. But it was this advice that made her admire him and want to live like him. No, not the misunderstood sister obsession, but the confidence he had about him. She wanted to be as confident in herself as he was in his own character and abilities. Gray having the childhood she has makes her a perfect fit for the Black Bulls because, as we've already said, the squad is a place meant for those who need a place that's safe from discrimination, a place where status means nothing, and that's the kind of place someone like Gray belongs in, the kind of place that is meant to raise her up to be great, just like it has.
Let's move on to Henry.
Who?
Henry, the dude with the curse, the guy that's only relevant when they're at the house.
Who?
The one with the long hair.
Oh, right.
Henry is a noble who was born with an unusual illness, which required him to siphon magic. Later on, we learned that this is a curse. Henry needs to siphon magic from those around him to live. Because of this, it forced him and his family to live in a secluded area alone. That was until after a few years. Henry's parents left the house, they skeeted out of there saying, "We don't want to deal with this bullshit anymore. My man's sucking us dry every day. We don't want that shit." I feel it, man. It's like when your dad said, "I'm going out for milk," and they don't come back. That's the situation that Henry was in. But it was both his parents this time. His brothers, sisters, everyone left, right? They said, "We're gonna go to the shopping. We'll come back." They don't come back. Henry could do nothing but stay at home. He can rearrange the layout of the house with his recombination magic, waiting for fate to take him as he awaited his death due to nobody being close by for him to take magic from to live, right? That was until Yami appeared just a few days before Henry was going to die. This fateful encounter is what subsequently saved Henry's life, as Yami came to the large house that belonged to Henry's family in order to make it his base for the Black Bulls. He thought it was abandoned. Yo, this mansion is abandoned. I'm taking this shit for myself. Then he realized, wait a second, there's this dude living in the house. He's sucking my magic. Who is this guy? So Henry told Yami that he can have the house for himself in a few days once Henry had passed away. However, because Yami's such a nice guy, he's a Chad, he straight up was having none of that. He told Henry no chance. Henry would have to live because living in a mansion that had somebody die in, it would be too creepy. And so Yami let Henry live. And then and there, the Black Bulls had a base and made that house their home. It gave Henry a second family, which allowed him to continue living as he could siphon the magic from the members present at the base. That is literally, and I'm telling you, that's all we know about the guy. Thank you for joining me as always, guys, and I'll see you next time.